Dear brothers and sisters, I welcome you all to hear and see this video message. Today we are going to pray for electoral reforms in India and bureaucrats like T.N Seshan should evolve an election commission of India to clean the politics in India. The content for this video I given in the description. You can go through and study. Needed electoral reforms in India. It has been 72 years since we first enacted the Representation of People Act 1951 and about as many since we conducted our first election in 1951. It is time now for a comprehensive review and analysis of the lessons learned in 17 general election to the Lok Sabha and several hundreds of elections to state assemblies. India has 28 states and 3 union territories that have legislative assemblies. A total of 31 state assembly elections that happen once every 5 years in addition to general election to the Lok Sabha. On an average, around 6 states to go to polls every year. Whilst we have over the years and progressively addressed some of these changes, gaps and issues by carrying out patchwork and incremental changes, it still does not match up with the need for and possibilities of transformative reforms. It is time now that we design transformative reforms that would strengthen electoral fundamentals. Number 1, political parties needs to be brought under the ambit of Right to Information Act 2005. There should be an audit of political parties' accounts must be conducted in order to make them accountable. Political parties need to rise morally and self-discipline themselves, restricting their use of money power. Number 2, once election date announced, governor rule or president rule deployed in state and in national. Number 3, in order to deal with emerging complexities and challenges of fair and peaceful election, India needs to re-establish the constitutional status of Election Commission of India in Article 324. It must no longer entertain direction or reprimands from courts of any description. A stricter code for political parties and candidates must be drawn up and enforced to regulate the murky political space. Stiffer penalties including deregistration of party be provided in case of non-compliance. As a next step, we must also consider restoration of the election tribunals as provided for in the Constitution of India. The 19th Amendment 1966 to the Constitution must be revisited and a judicial wing of the Election Commission be created and invested with the responsibility of deciding all electoral dispute in a time-bound manner. I would just suggest that the Government of India set up an Electoral Reforms Commission to examine and recommended changes, constitutional, statutory and procedural and operational. Number 4, relevant changes in Representation of People's Act 1951, election rules, instruction and process will all need to be revised in the wake of proposed paradigmatic change. The revision could range from enforcement model code of conduct for political parties and candidates, nomination, campaigning, polling, expenditure control, counting, ethical practices and other essential regulations. Number 5, Election Commission should replace political party symbols from electronic voting machine with the name and details of the candidates. It will help electors to vote and support intelligent, diligent and honest candidates, which is not possible in today's scenario, and also weed out casteism and communalism from our democracy. Ballot and EVM without political party symbol will control dictatorship of political party bosses in dictated distribution and forced them to give tickets to those who religiously work for people's welfare. Number 6. Law should be amended like any candidate. Those apply for legislative assembly or parliament constituencies should be either participated in civic polling as a candidate or partaken in civic government. Panchayat president are capable of in nation building role. States to endow powers and authority on village panchayats to make some units of self-government. Long-term empowerment of local body and localized power must be done so that people could see the changes happening immediately at their level and could actualize and understand the value of vote. This would inhibit getting previous tendency amongst people. Number 7. Makes the law amendment as 75% of minimum voter turnout should be mandatory to declare the results and 41% of votes on polling to declare winning of candidates. If both candidates are not met, conditions are not met, the winning candidate with less than 41% of vote share should not get MB and MLA local area development scheme fund. But the owners of the scheme fund directly gives to district collector and administered by governor of the state by no obligation to elected representative. Number 8. Frame the suitable legislation on the lines of Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act that puts a cap on fiscal deficit. If a cap is introduced on populist announcement based on the proportion of the budgetary resource they have by the parties within the ambit of law, then perhaps all political parties will have a level playing field and the unsustainable populist measures could be kept under check. Party manifesto should mention the source of budgetary allocation for schemes and programs suggested by political parties should approved by Election Commission of India and RBI. Number 9. Social media and internet media has already acquired a major role. While it will grow many times over in the next few years, it would need strict regulation code so as to prevent any type of possible abuse, including fake news. The regulatory regime will need to be strengthened to deal with offenders. The Election Commission of India should make it an obligatory responsibility of all parties should be given equal media space or airtime so as to provide a level playing field. Number 11. The news media channels and publications should take it as a responsibility to orchestrate a debate specifically on poll reforms and particularly on the scope of the state facilitating candidates in reaching voters and to inform them with the basic credentials of candidates. The Election Commission of India should obligate candidates in each constituency to jointly address public meetings. Political parties, candidates and campaigns can be assigned digital spaces and time slots by the Election Commission of India and slots for live debates and broadcast available to all political parties. With several broadcast technologies, political parties can reach voters with ease and convenience using 5G internet. The physical rallies, though permitted, may no longer be the preferred mode of the political parties or candidates. Number 12. System in which the state bears the election expenditure of political parties that are contesting elections should happen in India. This can bring transparency in the funding process, as public finance can limit the influence of interested donors' money and thereby help curb corruption. We do not have any global models to follow. Given our size of electorate of over 100 crores in the next parliamentary election, we must address the need of reforms without any delay. Bible talks about electoral reforms in India. In Proverbs 8, chapter 18, verse 18, casting the lot ends dispute and decides between the mighty. In Acts chapter 1, verse 23 to 26, and they put forward two Joseph called Barsabas, whose surname was Justus, and Matthias. And they prayed and said, You Lord, who know the hearts of all men, so which of these two you have chosen to take part in this ministry and apostleship, from which Judas fell by his transgression to go to his own place, and they cast their lots, and the lot fell on Matthias, and he was numbered with 11 apostles. And Proverbs chapter 16, verse 33. People might throw lots to make a decision, but the answer always comes from the Lord. Amen.